Listen, no disrespect, but I could probably negotiate a little bit better because I was so passionate about my projects and knew everything that went into it. And I had this opportunity of an individual. He was an investor. He had 16 single family homes that he wanted to sell off in a portfolio deal. I'd never done a portfolio deal. So I took that on and I put my head down. I said, I'm going to close this. No experience, had never done a portfolio deal. And I worked day in and day out.
What's going on, guys? We got a special guest on the podcast here today. We're going to talk about a story that led to a deal that was $23 million and 175 houses all at one time, and is a big transaction for some of you guys to think about. Doing something that large may blow your mind, but we're going to talk about how you can start out in the business, how a career can transition to that point where you can do something like that. Because today our guest is Elissa Stone. She's one of the top team leaders here with the Wolfpack organization at EXP. She's also an icon agent here at EXP Realty, and she's also a very successful real estate investor and a good friend of mine. So we're going to have Alyssa on here, and let's kind of go into how you start out, Alyssa. Like, you came into the industry, and then you went both directions, one direction first, and kind of transition your career. How do you got to the point where you're at now? Because I think a lot of people that watch these podcasts are just kind of getting in the industry, trying to figure out which direction they want to go. They probably have a lot of decisions to make, like you did, and you surely made some good ones, because look at where you're at right now. But let's introduce you to the audience. Let's tell them on the show, guys.
You.
How did it all start? What made you get into real estate? And
I'd love
we'll
to share my story. Thank you for having me, by the way. I really appreciate it. I've always looked up to you kind of in this business getting started. And so I'd love to kind of share the journey. That's really what it's been. It's been a journey. So originally I opened my first real estate LLC back in 2018. And the whole game plan was to do single family rehabs with the ultimate goal of one day going multifamily syndication or owning multifamily, more on the apartment complex side. So during that, as I'm doing some single family rehabs, I paid a realtor almost $30,000 to sell 2 of my rehabs. And that prompted me to get my license, because I'm like, well, that's $30,000 out of my pocket. I could, put that in my pocket. And listen, no disrespect, but I could probably negotiate a little bit better because I was so passionate about my projects and knew everything that went into it. So that's how I ended up getting my realtor's license. And then, I'm moving forward within my investment career, and I had this opportunity present itself. I wasn't focused on using my license in the retail side or the investment world. It was just more for my own deals. And I had this opportunity of an individual. He was an investor. He had 16 single family homes that he wanted to sell off in a portfolio deal. I'd never done a portfolio deal, but you always tap into your mindset. And really what that's about is no limiting beliefs. So I took that on and I put my head down. I said, I'm going to close this. No experience, had never done a portfolio deal. And I worked day in and day out. I did end up closing that transaction of 16 single family homes. And then that led me to believe, well, heck, if I can do that, like, why can't I do more portfolio deals? There's obviously a wave and a need in the market for that right now. And so I started doing very simple marketing, which quite frankly is uncomfortable to me, on social media and Instagram, talking a little bit about the portfolio deal that I'd done. And, but hey, you got to put yourself out there. If people don't know what you do, they're not going to come to you and ask for your services, or at least get to know you a little bit better. And so started putting that out there, got a lot more leads on doing portfolio deals, was very well connected in the investor world after building up year after year and really getting to know people. And what that ultimately led to overall is in 2022, I closed on 175 single family homes, and it pulled in over $23 million in sales transactions.
That's awesome. Now, one of the things about portfolio deals and daisy chain transactions is they're, for a lot of people, massive headaches, and they usually don't get it to the finish line. And I've tried, when I was in the beginning of my business, to get involved in this, and you never know who's the actual person has under contract. Feels like there's 5 people in the middle, and there's all sorts of problems in between, and it rarely gets to the finish line. So the fact that you did this and not multiple times is impressive. So maybe let's kind of go into kind of like the process of doing that. So like, how did you, was there multiple parts in between you and the direct seller, or how many working parts were in the middle? or were you just direct to them? Because that's where some of these portfolio deals can kind of get crazy, is how many people are involved and nobody can get to source, nobody get decisions made, and then it just is spinning the wheels and never gets to the finish line, and it's a big headache for people. But
Absolutely. So I had a little bit of a unique approach. A lot of licensed agents, they want to get the exclusive right to sell. And my motto and my mentality was a little bit different, because a lot of sellers, especially if you're in a situation, in a position where you own 16 rentals, 91 rentals, you're not necessarily wanting to lock up in an exclusive right to sell. You want to kind of keep your options open. So I picked up on that trend. So what I did in working direct with these sellers, and in just a minute, I'll mention how I actually got one of these leads. I just went to him and I said, hey, listen, I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I understand you have XYZ amount of homes that you would like to sell in one portfolio deal because of the ease of the transaction. Give me the addresses. Let me see what I can do. And I'll bring you a couple of different offers. And then at that point, if I have piqued your interest, then we can enter into the contract and finish doing the paperwork on the exclusive right to sell and all that good stuff. And so the way I positioned it with these investors is they had nothing to lose. All you're going to do is send a spreadsheet with addresses, and I'm going to bring you potential offers. And if the dollar amount is good, or you want to start the negotiation process, then let's do it. So only on those 175 homes, only the package of 16 did I initially have the exclusive right to sell. So I find so many realtors and agents in the market where they will not work on anything unless they have that. And maybe that's the best fit for them. But for me, I saw the opportunity, and I knew if I got things in front of these sellers that they were going to take me serious and realize, wow, I probably haven't received anything to date on the table as far as a serious offer until this point. And that's what led to it. And, I'll tell you, Connor, it was blood, sweat, and tears, because I was working all of these deals at the exact same time, on top of doing my very first multifamily syndication. And what a multifamily syndication is you're purchasing an apartment complex and you're raising money, you're raising equity with passive partners to close on that. So all of this is going on at the same time. And then within 2 months and 5 days, every single one of those transactions closed. And I basically almost collapsed after they all closed. Did that really just happen?
yeah,
I'll give you an example of how I found one of these package deals. So ironic. I mentioned previously that I was doing a little bit of marketing on Facebook and Instagram, which I don't really know anything about, and it's super uncomfortable. But I'm like, hey, let's just do it. And so I had a friend, and actually he was a lender for me for several years on the single family side. And he messaged me on Facebook and he goes, hey, and it was a screenshot. He goes, I don't know who this guy is. I know nothing about him. Somehow we're connected, or, there's connection somewhere. And he's looking to sell a package of 91 homes. See what you can do. But when that lead was passed to me, there's no phone number. There's no email address. All I have is this person's name on Facebook, and that he's potentially looking to sell 91 properties. So I go into like little investigator mode, and I'm like, who is this? How do I find his number? How do I find his email? And, I'm going to cold call. I'm going to cold call and talk about the value that I can bring to him, and also understand why he's selling, what he's wanting to achieve, and how I'm going to find a solution to his problems and add value at the end of the day. So ironically enough, that's how one of the leads came in and closed on that one package deal of 91 homes.
Now, on the sell side, on find the buyer, how did that come about? Because I think even I looked at this one, and what did I try to do? I think I tried to cherry pick some deals out of it. Is usually what happens when you get portfolio deals. You bring them to investors or buyers, and they're like, well, I want to kind of look through everything and just pick the good ones out, and things like that. Where usually sometimes when portfolio deals go on market, they're going on the market to take all their problem children and put them in with the rock star children and blend it in there so they can hopefully move everything all at one time. But you moved it the full load, right? All in one sale to one buyer, or was it multiple buyers? And then kind of go through that process. Like how did you find the buyer? Was it through the MLS? Was it through your independent efforts? And then what were some of was there any headaches going through that negotiation side of things with that?
Yeah. So it's such a cool story, and I absolutely take great pride in this. On that package of 16, which is the very first portfolio deal that I did, I was representing the seller. And obviously I could bring the buyer and be the intermediary between both sides. But I had an agent that joined my team with EXP, and she was newly licensed. And so she said, hey, there's a possibility I may have a buyer. And so we worked seamlessly together because how cool is that? She's newly licensed. This could be a potentially life-changing deal for her. I have the best interests of the seller at hand, but at the same time, I'm rooting for her. We're all working together. And the only thing that matters is all of us walk away in a win-win-win situation. And so she did end up bringing the buyer, which was exciting, closed on the deal. It was a life-changing transaction for her in her first commission check as being a licensed agent. And we worked hand in hand and very team effort, but it was amazing. And then on some of the other deals, one of them, it was not, when I brought the buyer, it was not an end buyer. So it was a wholesaler, but the numbers seemed to work. We worked well together. We were able to close on the transaction, and he later was able to turn around and market it and sell to an actual investor. On the package of 91, which that's the highest package that I've done to date at one time, same thing on that one. I brought an investor that wanted the entire package, was able to close and make things happen. And so I worked both sides of the transaction on that one. So my ultimate goal when I do work on those portfolio deals is, obviously it would be awesome to represent both sides and, be the intermediary. And it's all about everybody walking away feeling good about the transaction. But you just work it with my contacts. Who else do I know? Who's on my team? And I took so much pride in that newly licensed agent closing on a life-changing deal. And she's continued to go on down the way with doing other transactions as well.
Yeah, that's a cool thing about win-win scenarios, especially if they're new in the business. Both parties change their life simultaneously. So that was what was the size of that commission that went to her and then to you? It was.
If I remember exact numbers, which I could be off like by a couple thousand, but it was over $70,000 on her very first portfolio transaction, because the total deal, it was $2.6 million. And, we came down a little bit on the commission side, in my negotiation to obtain exclusive right to sell. But she walked with over $70,000, closer, I think, to maybe $75,000 to $76,000 in one commission check, which was amazing because she was newly licensed.
Yep. And then what was one on your big one? Wasn't it like a?
I'm looking at my numbers. I still can't believe it. On one of them, let's see, it was the $9.6 million sales transaction, and the commission check on that one was $275,000.
Dang, on one transaction. How long did it take though? Was this like obviously, like, let's look at like on the start to finish time horizon of how long it took from when you started to get to it, but then also like the time commitment in the midst of it. Was it like you were working on this every day and it had your attention, or there's some like time delays where you're just kind of waiting for things to play out, or just so people can have a good understanding if they try to do something like this, what they can expect?
Sure. It was hustle every single day. And there were so many days that I got up that I said, I can't do this. I'm exhausted. I walked, like 50 houses yesterday doing inspections or with the inspector, and, all these different moving parts, and, you're overwhelmed and all this information is coming at you. But I just saw the end result. I saw the goal and where I wanted to be and how I was going to get there. And I was going to do whatever it took to be successful. So a lot of what played into it is mindset. And, I'll be completely transparent. My mom, she's my best friend, always has been. There were so many days that I called her and I'm like, I'm done. I am so exhausted because I also have 8-year-old twins. And so I'm managing, house, businesses, kids, trying to like walk all these properties, negotiation. But it was about the mindset and what I really wanted. And it's almost like incremental growth. Because you can get so overwhelmed. So it's like, get up. What do I have to do today to move these deals forward? And it could be something so small, right? But what's the one thing that I can do today to move the deal forward? Then you wake up again the next day, same thing, same mentality. And before you know it, you're sitting at the closing table and you're like, is this real? Did I do all of this? I still, sometimes I feel like you're only as good as your last deal. That's always the mentality that's been beat into my head from being in sales. But I still think about it, when I was just looking up at my whiteboard in my home office, it still doesn't feel real. It doesn't. And so I do have to stop and pat myself on the back every now and then, and my team on the back, and say, okay, yes, that's real and that's great. But how are you going to duplicate that moving forward? Like, what's your next success? Because you don't want to stay stuck in that mindset where you're not able to accomplish similar results moving forward.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go into your team here in a second, but a couple of quick things that I think would be interesting for the listeners here. So, like, on the buy side, once the buyer's in place, how is that agreement structured with them? Like on single family house, you may have a short option window, but to do due diligence on 91 houses, they're gonna, like, how did that work on that side? Like, how long was the agreement? How did they have time to go inspect them? Did they look at every house? Did they thoroughly look at every house, or did they just look at things on paper? Or kind of what was it like during that window of time? How they went through their buy process?
Each deal was a little bit different, but I would say overall, if I kind of had to like group everything together, the typical option period for the portfolio deals on the 91 homes, we did a 30-day option period. And what I built into the contract is that they could come back, multiple times, for inspection, appraisal. There was a lot of scheduling to be able to tour all those. But things went relatively good on all of those just because of the organization that I was able to put in place on my side. And then when I'm working with the buyers, it's just that open, honest communication. And that's really what led to the success of it. So between like the appraisals, the inspections, sometimes we wanted to get some contractors out to bid on, potential rehabs and what that cost would be, because they're having to do all their analysis in this option period. I think in the package of 16, that option period, I think, was about 20 days. And then the other package, it was about 60 something homes. That option period was under 30 days as well. So kind of surprising for a portfolio so big when there's so many moving parts. But the title company involved in a lot of these transactions also did an amazing job in communication all the way around.
So who covered like all the appraisal expenses? Because I mean, you think about like on a single house, what you're looking at, probably 350 to 700, depending on where you're at,
Right.
different services. So let's just say 500. Yeah, if you have 90 at 500, that's like $45,000 expenses. Did like you had a bulk appraiser come in and do it for a lower price, or like how did that all work? Because that's something that needs to be done. And if the buyer's doing it and they don't fall through, that's a huge expense and risk of their time and dollars for sure.
Absolutely. Great question. I don't know what the actual numbers ended up at. I do know that they negotiated kind of like a lump sum to do all of those appraisals. And we scheduled an entire day to where they're going in and out of houses. And, for the houses that were occupied with tenants, we have to make sure that's scheduled. We have to make sure there's no dogs on the property, so it was very intensive. But you have these investors, very savvy investors, educated investors, where you have to be able to analyze all this and make sure covering the inspections, covering the appraisals, is it still going to make sense on the back end to close on this? Is there still going to be money in the deal? Is it going to be cash flowing? And so I was able to assist in some of that as well, just because my investor background and experience, even though that kind of wasn't my expertise for just the agent role and representing the sellers. But at the same time, we're all trying to get a deal done. It's all about us winning and walking away. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to offer value and services to anybody in the transaction to make sure we all get across the finish line. It was interesting though. But yes, I would say upwards of $40,000.
That's nuts. I'm sure. Yeah. So just knowing, being in the business, I call it the real estate sweat, burn. That whole time you're like, please, you're praying, you want it to go through, but you never know that one thing, it can pull the whole plug out from underneath it and it just all falls out. And you put all this time, energy, and effort in, and it could all explode. But that's why most people don't chase it that far. They say, oh, this could be difficult. The biggest deals you ever get paid on, like, for example, like one of my biggest flips, it took me 9 months to clear up a bunch of, there's all sorts of weird family, multiple marriages and all. It took forever to get it cleared up, basically. But by the time we did, the market appreciated and it ended up being one of my biggest deals ever. So sometimes the most difficult deals turn away most people that don't want to deal with it or think that it can be done. So if you fight through and you get through to the end, this is where these big rewards come from. But was there a point when you thought it was going to kind of blow up on you a few times, or?
Yes, I'll give you two examples, and I'm not going to name which specific transaction this was, but one of the larger ones that I worked on, it was like a probate situation where there were heirs of sisters and brothers, and the original owner unfortunately had passed away, and there's attorneys involved, and so I even got a call from the title company. He goes, "There's no way this is ever going to close," and I said, "Listen," and I said, "I know you're experienced. You've been in this business for quite some time. I don't want to hear there's no way we're going to close. As long as it's full of, ethics and integrity, I want to hear and talk about and strategize how we're going to close." And so it was that shift of mindset again, because I don't want to hear what can't happen. I want to hear how we're going to find the solutions to make it happen. And there were so many moments throughout all of this that one thing would pop off in each transaction that would it looked like it was going to prevent it from being closed, and you can only imagine what you're feeling on a daily basis, living life every single day for several months on end, going through this, when you have this amazing opportunity to close on the back end, but you're dealing with all the day to day, and it's just like, you're like, is this ever going to end? Am I ever going to be able to breathe and relax? But it was an amazing experience. And I think, again, that's when I go back to mindset, and that's when I go back to the tenacity and the perseverance. It's like, you have it or you don't. And if you have days that you're not feeling it, well, you better find it really quick. I don't care if you need to go take like a jog around the block or drink a Monster or a Bang or whatever it is. It's like, focus on that goal. And what do you have to do today to move it forward just one step? And you keep doing that every single day, and then you end up at the closing table.
Just take no for an answer. And this is kind of like when you're dealing with attorneys and lenders and CPAs and all that. They're gonna tell you what they think should be done. It shouldn't be that way around. They shouldn't be telling you what you should be doing in your business. You should be telling them what you want done, and they need to figure out how to get it done. And if they're not, you need to go to somebody else. So this is a common situation here. Sorry, my phone's ringing a second. Put down there. Sorry about that. But I'm gonna tell you about the house that I had, and this is a good lesson for you guys. Listen to this. So I've been doing a number of transactions at this one title company, and I had a pretty good relationship with them. I think we'd done maybe 20 or 30 houses through their office. And then I brought this one deal to them, and it was chaos. And I knew it was going to be chaos, and possibly might not actually be able to get done. And as we started looking at closer, like, I knew it could get done. It was just going to take forever, and it's going to be a big headache and a lot of stress for them. So on their side, you got to look at it. They're looking at, I think as an agent, do you want a little $3K deal or $275,000 deal like Alyssa has, right? From their side, they're looking at this as a business, and they're saying, okay, well, these other transactions are quick and easy. I'm going to make a profit on them. To do this one, they're going to lose money. They're going to have way more time, way more effort, way more energy into getting this done. And by the time it gets done, they're actually net negative. So it doesn't make sense. And this is what I think you guys as investors need to understand. If it's going to be a net return on their time, they're going to tell you it can't be done when it can actually get done. And what I did was, I basically made them understand, like, this can get done. Why are you not doing this? I went to another title company, and I went in there and I said, here's this deal. I know it can get done. Here's what I think is happening with the other title companies, that they don't want to get it done. You're going to lose money to do this. But if you do this and you lose money, you're going to gain money, because I'm going to move my entire business over to you and start closing my future transactions through you. And he did. It took him 9 months. And this is when we were in a really hot market. That property appreciated big time during that window of time. I think it went up like $30,000 or $40,000. So it's good to get title issues and have things tie your property up if you have a contract in a hot market, because the property values are going up. So you're actually increasing the benefit of the deal. But that's what I did. And then also, when I did that, it conditioned the current title company I was working with that in the future business, they better get any deal I bring to them done, because they saw what happened in real life, which was, you can't just win me over one time. You have to, you're going to win every time. Every now and I'm going to bring a bad one. It's going to be a headache. But if you want my long-term business, you're going to have to do this. And so it's kind of conditioned them. So now when I bring a crazy one that I know they don't want to do, they get it done. But it's just something to keep in consideration, guys. That deal, I forget, it was either 60 or 90K. Either way, it's still a big profit. I think I have the YouTube channel video on that. But if I had not moved, think about what could easily happen there if you don't just take no, if you take the no and just move on, like Alyssa's saying. Whereas if I just said, okay, fine, and then I terminate that wholesale contract, or I terminate the contract I had on to buy the property, that's 60 to 90K that I would not have in my bank account. And it's just that one little extra push, one little extra effort. So I really agree with what you're saying there on that mindset, and push to make it work and figure it out, because usually you can. But let's transition
I
a little
love
bit. So now we work together now. So we're partners, and you came over to EXP finally with Brant and I. And so I know you're doing a lot on the investment side, but you're also doing pretty good over here. You got your team growing, and you now have your so you run a production team now, or maybe give an idea for the listeners, because I'm sure you got a lot of people that are going to listen to this that say, I want to learn how to do a $275,000 deal or make 70K on my first deal. And you can. All you got to do is reach out to Alyssa and join her team, and she's going to teach you everything that she knows as far as what she's doing in her market. But let's talk about what you're doing with your group here.
Sure. Well, thank you. It's, I started out in real estate, I mentioned back in 2018, had a very specific plan and goal. I never thought that I would end up in the role that I am, doing all those portfolio deals. And I never thought that I would be launching a realty team. But as a business person, as you're going through life and you're running multiple businesses, you see opportunity and you understand and learn when to quickly capitalize on that opportunity. EXP with you and Brant was number one in all of that. And that's what's led me to building this team. So thank you. And I'm excited to talk about, I'm with a company called Total Wealth Academy. Originally, we just had a business alignment, and that's real estate education in the Houston area. We're launching in Dallas and then some other states as well. So we're going international. We're on that fast track. And as we're doing all of this, we have members that are actively looking to buy and sell real estate, anything from single family to multifamily. And so in being with EXP and understanding the cloud-based brokerage and the model and the global expansion, it just made perfect sense to mirror EXP with Total Wealth Academy and to build the realty team. And so the realty team is able to find and source deals for all of the members, both buying and selling. And so we had our official team launch in June of this year, so just a couple of months ago. Total Wealth Realty Team. I am actually one of the partners, both the owner of Total Wealth Academy and myself. We're partners in this endeavor, and then I'm the team lead. So we have this amazing cloud-based brokerage, EXP, where we have all of the support, with contracts, accounting, IT. And then whenever I come into play on the team lead side and working with my team, it's all about sales strategy. It's about processes. I'm going on appointments with some of my agents. And I'm a true believer that if you have what it takes to be successful in that mentality and you're a self-starter, you're absolutely going to do it. And so they're walking into this amazing organization where we have these events from time to time. So for example, we have one coming up on September 30th, and there's typically over 400 people at these events. They're always fun. It's real estate education. There's speakers, there's cocktails, there's water, there's definitely good food to eat as well. So just a great time. And right now we have 9 people on the team, and that's both residential and commercial. And just to give you an example, I mentioned that our formal launch was in June. And in July, keep in mind, this is a combination of commercial and residential, but we closed over $10.15 million in July. And as of right now, on the books to close this month, so fingers crossed. I don't typically like to talk about anything till it closes. That's just how I am. But we have over 8.5 million on the books right now. And I would say the biggest opportunity in all of this is you're walking into members who are always actively buying and selling. So to give you an example, if I'm an investor, or say maybe I'm the agent and I'm working with an investor, they want to find that rehab house. So you get that 3% on the front end when you help them buy that house. Well, you want to stay close to them while they're doing that rehab, because guess what? They're going to list it on the back end and you're going to get another 3% on that particular transaction. That's amazing. So you're going to these events that are held that are very nice events. You're able to network. We have internal leads. And then in addition to all that, the way that I used to find my rehabs, I had very specific marketing in place to get us in contact direct with sellers. And so I have a pretty nice spend each month that I'm doing on that for incoming leads as well. And it's turned into an amazing thing. I'm not actively in production. My goal with the organization and with the team is to help them be successful. Every now and then I may take a listing here or there, but they absolutely benefit. And let me share one more example with you. I got another portfolio opportunity recently. This is the same seller that I closed on the 16 homes with. Keep in mind, he's not a member of Total Wealth Academy. He's outside of that, but one of my connections. And so he has about 30 more homes in Dallas that he wants to sell. And so one of my team members, I connected him with a Total Wealth Academy member. That member is looking for a rehab in Dallas. So I told my agent, hey, contact this member. Here's name, number, all that good stuff. And oh, by the way, here's my portfolio deal that you can connect, and he can cherry pick some of the ones he wants for rehabs. And so the agent was just ecstatic. He's like, I'm on it. I got this. And I'm like, let me know if you need anything else in the process. So it's amazing collaboration between Total Wealth Academy, building the realty team, myself, and all the agents. And I always look for amazing people to join the team.
So you can, you run the global revenue share organization, but just the local production team, or can they partner? Are you going to build your production team in different markets or just locally? But just in general, they can still partner with you in all 50 states, every Canadian province, and every country that EXP is in general,
Yeah.
just to partner with you. But locally, you're meaning your production team, right? Or are you going to try to
Absolutely.
scale that?
It's kind of twofold, because you can actually join, the amazing organization EXP and have all the benefits of the equity and health insurance and revenue share organization on top of the commission side. So I mentor for that when somebody, actually joins my team. But then if you want the choice of being in the investor world with Total Wealth Academy under the Total Wealth Realty team, that's kind of another layer to where you have immediate access to all the members, the buyers, the sellers, the database, some of the marketing that I'm doing. So it's twofold. But to answer your question, absolutely. As I'm growing my team, it's all 50 states, Amsterdam, Hong Kong. I mean, there are so many opportunities globally with EXP. As far as the Total Wealth Realty team, primarily in Houston. I now have agents in Dallas, and we are launching, state by state. Next one will be Arizona in a very short period of time. And that's why we chose EXP as the brokerage, because regardless of where we're opening the Total Wealth Realty team, we have this amazing brokerage to support us by state.
Yeah, and saves you, like, if you're trying to do like an independent model, or create your own franchising system or something like that, the expense to scale right now
Yes.
at the marketplace, find even like the right property, it's just such a headache and such a risk that people just don't want to do it. And like right now, let's say you had someone from Europe or Australia or New Zealand, you could literally partner with them overnight. We've had multiple brokerages of, we had one brokerage of over 100 agents partner with us from India, just to give you an idea of the power of the EXP model. Now, the cool thing is, like, if they're partnering with you, is that a lot of times you come up in the industry, it's either sales first on the agent side, you come in, get your license and stay in that arena, or you come up with the investment side, but you're actually doing both sides of business. And I think a lot of real estate agents want to become investors, and the fact that also your sponsor Grant, who I just did a podcast with as well, is one of the top investors in the country, they would have a lot of extra support and help with you guys right there, to help them with that other side of the business while they grow their production business. And you guys need someone looking over your shoulder, like Alyssa, who's going to say, okay, they said they can't do this, but we're going to get it done anyways. And that's the type of high performance mentality and the environment and proximity that you need sometimes, because I know a lot of you guys are probably listening to this and you're like, man, I wonder if I had pushed a little bit harder on that deal, if I had just not backed off of it, or if I tried to find a solution, would have actually turned into something. So it would be, so it's good to get around people that have that mentality. But as far as like the market's going right now, what's your main focus? You're going to go focus on as far as the end of the year. Are you seeing anything change in the market as far as activity in the market? Is it getting tightened down? What's your take on kind of where we're at in this crazy industry?
Well, you've known me for a couple of years now, and you know my personality. And when you're running and building a team, it's not just about the team leader or the partner, right? You have to understand what motivates and inspires your team too. So there's been a lot of conversations recently on that, and we're absolutely in build mode. We just had the official launch in June. But through some of the discussions with the team, everybody's kind of on the same page that we're setting some pretty lofty goals that we would love to be within top 5 of teams within EXP on the leaderboard within at least a year. And so, we've set these lofty goals, and, sometimes you achieve them, sometimes you don't, but you do whatever it takes and you keep that eye on the prize. And so in setting those team goals, it makes each of the agents be more successful. And then I think what they love about the Total Wealth, realty team model is they can start out residential. They're learning about real estate. They're understanding how to do rehabs. They're understanding more the commercial side, and you can transition into the commercial agent side. And a lot of times when you go commercial, it takes a year or two to build up potential buyers or, sellers. It's all business development. But with my model, we already have the buyers and sellers there. For example, I have 7 different members right now looking to purchase multifamily properties. Why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this because of the potential. You build up your residential realty business, you transition to the commercial side. And one of my agents, he's only been licensed right now at a year, and he's done 3 different transactions. His last transaction that he closed on last month, his take-home check was over $135,000. So technically, if he didn't want to work for the rest of the year, he really wouldn't have to.
That's nuts. I mean, y'all did some big deals down there. Get me in some of those big deals, Alyssa. Just kidding.
I know.
But that's awesome.
Props to him. He's been educating himself on the commercial side. And, once he finally got the license, because I said, I don't think you understand what you can do with your knowledge. And he's just jumped right in. I mean, has totally changed him and his family's life in a year. And, I'm going to mention something, fingers crossed it goes through, but he just put his own smaller multifamily complex under contract as well, because of these life-changing transactions that he's done over the last year.
Man, he's going to get to where he's trying to get to quickly, sounds like. So that's awesome. I mean, it's really what you need to think of. You got to have your active income coming in through flips, wholesale deals, or residential sales. Trading time, create that active income that eat money, and then what's left over after your life expenses and what you pay for taxes is your disposable income. And this is what you're going to put into using as down payments to get into your multifamily or start acquiring rental properties. So you either need to be crushing in sales or doing a bunch of flips and rentals. Wholesale deals, and then using that excess to start building your portfolio. But that's really kind of the way you want to think about it: active to passive in that transitionary kind of back and forth process. But how do they find you, Alyssa? Yeah, how do they get in touch with you if they want to join your team, or they want to hop on a call with us? And then what's the best place to redirect them as far as like the social media sites that you're most active on? And we'll put all that down below in the description area for them. But go ahead and tell them what would be the best way to reach you.
Well, first, I want to thank you, Connor. Between you and Brent, meeting you guys over the years, I've always been a big believer. My dad taught me this since I was young. You are and will become what you surround yourself with. And so when I meet people, I very quickly, intuitively understand, is this a person I need to be connected with? What do I see in them? And they've got these amazing attributes and knowledge and skills. And it's just like, you want to kind of be in that wave with them. And you are that person, Brent is that person. So by me connecting with you guys, it's totally changed my life. I never thought that I would be where I'm at today. Especially back in 2018, to be completely transparent, I had over $100,000 in debt, and I had $2.56 in my checking account. And I'm looking at my kids at that point, not knowing how I'm even going to get gas, to being in a completely different situation now. And it is still blood, sweat, and tears. Don't get me wrong. I still have my bad days where I wake up and I have tears, but it's just, you are and will become what you surround yourself with. So thank you to you. Thank you to Brent. As far as contact information, again, it's the Total Wealth Realty team. I'll give you my direct email. It's Elissa, ELISSA at totalwealthrealtyteam.com. And Connor, as I mentioned, I'm not huge on social media. I really try, but it's so uncomfortable to me. But I do have like Facebook, Instagram. I know you've pushed me to do more YouTube, so I'm still working on that. But it's Elissa Stone, Stone, and you can look me up and, match the face and we'll be good to go. So thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. You did a great job. Let's kind of wrap it up. We'll touch on one more thing. So like I had a very similar, I think a lot of people are in that spot where you were at in 2018. And you know my story, I got in a bad spot as well. And I was $100,000 debt. And personally, for my story at that moment, it was horrific to go through, but it was the horror and the pain and the fear and the suffering that was so strong that it made me created just this work ethic that was not able to be matched if you were too comfortable. You can only create that type of intensity and work ethic for that long if you're trying to run away from a giant tiger that's like 1,000 feet tall, meaning it's such a painful spot, that's such a risk, so much headache that you're doing anything to get out of it. How much of that led you to getting to where you're at right now? And then maybe some inspiration for some of the people that are stuck in that spot to use that fear and use that, negative emotion for kind of a launching point for them to get out of it.
Sure. I think you have to look at yourself and kind of your risk tolerance, and you have to make very educated decisions. Investing in real estate can be very risky, and anything you do in life can be very risky. And I had to understand where I was at, what position I was in, and what I was willing to get out of it. So I did take some risks. To give you an example, when I closed on my first multifamily of 11 units, I didn't have the money for a down payment to close on that. I got creative. I got creative deal structure, and I was able to find a gap partner. And I had over 6 digits in debt at that point too. So what person in their right mind would make that decision? That's not a decision for everybody, okay? I had to make that decision for myself. So I'm not recommending anybody do that, but that's where I was at because I believed in myself. And I knew that I had a choice and I was going to do whatever it took to completely change my circumstance, 4 or 5 years from where I was at that point. And I did it. And man, it wore on me on a day-to-day basis. But I look back and I'm so proud of myself. And you don't stop growing. I keep putting myself in uncomfortable situations every single day because I want that growth. I want to learn. However, you also start to analyze like the balance in your life. Like my kids, my twins, my 8-year-old twins, they're so terribly important to me. They're my first priority. They're the reason why I started my own company in 2018 when I was starting all over and I had nothing. It was because I wanted to be able to spend time with them and not be stuck in the corporate world like I was in the past. And so that tiger's been chasing me, for 6, 7, 8 years now. And those portfolio deals, that is what changed my life. That's what changed my life. And that tiger was chasing me every single day. And I just told myself, if I close, I wouldn't even say one of those deals. There were 5 portfolio deals. I wouldn't say one because that wasn't good enough for me. When I close all 5 of these, it's going to change my life. And that's what I kept telling myself every single day. I would not say 1 or 2, just let me close 1 or 2. No, when I close these 5, I'm going to be sitting in a completely different situation. And that's what drove me. So I let that tiger chase me. And he got a couple bites on me throughout all that.
Yeah, they catch up every now and then. But as long as you get away in the end. But and it's also important, someone sees, you right now, you're very well spoken, very confident, and they see people at this stage of their success. And it happens from going through adversity. When you go into the darkness and you fight it every day, and then you come out of it and you succeed and accomplish what you did. Now going forward in life, bear with me. Now going forward in life, what happens is the next adversity or the next problem that you come up against, you have the historical record of that. I know what I'm capable of before, and I know I went through this. So you're much more confident going forward, and you have a much higher self-esteem and higher self-image. And then in life and business, this is what attracts people to us. So in an attraction-based business, do you want someone who's always fearful, negative, and not confident in what they're doing? Or do you want someone that's confident, that's been there before, that knows they have a strong conviction of where they're going in the future, and that if anything arises as far as a headache or a problem, they're just going to blast right through it? But that mentality that you get to walk with going forward in life comes from the things that we've done in our life up until that moment. So if you get up to adversity and you back off, you're going to destroy your self-esteem. If you get up to adversity, you push through and you win through it, you're going to have a respect for yourself that you couldn't buy otherwise, and money can't buy that. It comes from earning it. So it's very important to understand that you got to fight these dragons and fight these monsters and win. And then that's what's going to build the emotions and the respect for yourself inside that are going to take you through the rest of your life. But
so well put. Can I share one thing really quickly?
Yeah.
Because I go through this often, and there's a little quote. I don't even know who said it. So I apologize. I'm not able to give whoever credit. But this means a lot to me, and I think it could mean a lot to a lot of people listening. Push the hardest when you want to quit the most. So all those times that I get up and I want to quit, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I read that. It's on my whiteboard, and I'm like, push the hardest when you want to quit the most.
Yeah, that's my quote. I gave you that one like 3 years ago.
Was it? Okay, so I wrote it on my whiteboard.
I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. I'm messing.
I was like, I can give you credit.
No, it is. It's true. I mean, but the number one thing that makes people not become successful is not intelligence, not their background, where they came from, not that they have money. It's their persistency, and they're willing to pursue something in the face of darkness and stress and suffering and pain and fear. And this is the test that entrepreneurs go through. And if you can't do that, you're never going to be a successful entrepreneur. And it's just
Yeah.
like a fighter. It's like you're never going to become a UFC champion without getting punched in the face. Like it just doesn't. Everybody wants the outcome without the sacrifice. They don't want to go to the practice field. They don't want to get hurt along the way, and they don't want to, have the, the negative side of it. But you have to go through that, otherwise you don't get the upside.
This is like on my computer screen at my home office. I'm having a bad day or, whatever. It says determination and perseverance. And so I always read that and I'm like, you better bring it today. Where's that determination? Where's that perseverance? And so I have to take like little notes for myself up.
Oh, sure. I do that all the time. It's just to keep the most important things in the front of your focus. So in the other room I have on my wall, you'll see it say consistency, persistency, and patience, because I believe those are the three things that develop success on anything that we do long term. Because if you're not consistent with what you're doing, you can't build momentum. You need to show up every day, just like Alyssa was saying in the beginning. Show up every day and move just a little bit forward. Take one step forward, move the ball 1 yard forward. So you have to be consistent. But then in the consistency process, if you're in the game every day, you're going to get beat up. You're going to have a couple of tiger bites on you. That's where the persistency side comes in. And you're going to have to stay consistent and persistent through the consistency. But then the patience side of it is it's not going to happen as fast as you want. And when you're in the midst of the storm, it always seems like even like a month away, it's like a year away. And so you have to be patient, but you have to be what I call aggressively patient, meaning don't just sit there and wait. Be working every day towards your goals, but be patient to let them happen over time, because it took me way longer than I thought to get to where most people consider successful. But then once you get there, it's the present moment. It's like when you're sick or something, I'm never going to feel better again. Then you get there and it's like, oh, I'm right here. And now it's lifetime. And you're like, and now that's when she's saying earlier, like it didn't even feel like it actually happened, but you just have to stay consistent, be persistent, be patient. And then eventually, if you don't stop and you don't quit, you're going to get there, whatever you're chasing as far as your goals. But I'll get this out to you guys here soon. This is a good podcast. And then make sure to check Alyssa out and all the description links below. And other than that, good to see you, Alyssa. And we'll wrap this phone up and see you guys on the next one.